Hello, Egyptomaniacs. I hope you're all feeling very healthy and happy and well and enjoying and making the most of this weird 2020 lockdown situation. Today's activities on Egyptomaniacs are all going to be focusing around my favourite ancient Egyptian goddess, Sopdet. Sopdet was the personification of the star we call Sirius, one of the brightest stars in the night sky. And her appearance in the night sky, she would disappear from view for a period of 70 days. But when she appeared in the night sky for the first time in ancient Egyptian times, she marked the beginning of the inundation of the river Nile. And so this is when the ancient Egyptian people celebrated their new year. And this would occur around the 19th of July every year. So the inundation of the River Nile was obviously a key factor in the success of the harvest that year. And so Sopdet and the pharaoh were seen to have a relationship because the pharaoh would be held personally responsible for the success of the floods. So in ancient Egyptian times, the myth and the ritual around worshipping Sopdet, there was this mythological union of the pharaoh and Sopdet in which the inundation of the river was the fertile product of their union. And also Sopdet was seen to be the person responsible for cleansing the pharaoh when he or she entered the underworld upon his or her death. And we can see that there's some symbolic references to this in the process of mummification, because Sopdet would disappear from the night sky for a period of 70 days, in which time she would be considered to be in the duat, or the underworld of the ancient Egyptian spiritual reality. And the mummification process took 70 days. So, the body would be laid in natron salt and dried out, and there was this elaborate process of mummification that would take 70 days. So Sopdet was seen to preside over the mummification process in this way, and later on she became associated with Isis and Anubis. So our activity today, and you can elaborate upon this if you want, all you're going to need is some paper, some plain white paper, and some tea or coffee to stain that paper, because we're going to try to give some of our artwork an ancient papyrus type look. So we're also going to need some art materials. So I've got some ink, but you can use paint or pens, whatever you prefer. And we're going to draw an image of the goddess Sopdet and write a spell on our papyri to try to invoke the goddess and bring forth her blessings for an abundant and fertile year.
So you want to start off making a super strong cup of tea using 4 tea bags, and when that's brewed, pour that over a screwed up piece of paper and make sure you saturate the whole piece of paper in a pot. Or you can even dump the tea bags on the top of that as well. And squish it all down. Make sure that all of the tea soaks into the paper. You don't need to leave it there very long because it's quite a strong tea colour already, as you can see. So when it's cool enough to handle, you can take the paper out, and it's handy if you can dry this off on a piece of kitchen towel or something similar. And if you straighten it all out, it's quite nice, I think, to roll it up when it's in this position, because that makes the stain marks consistent with being a papyrus roll. So once your piece of paper is nice and dry, you can draw your image of Sopdet upon it. And I'm using a reed pen here. This is made from bamboo, but it's quite good at giving that authentic hieroglyphic look. And you can write any kind of spell that you want on this piece of paper, but it is important to keep your spells and magic work secret. So once you've written your spell, roll up your scroll and hide it somewhere special. So let's talk a little bit now about the representation of Sopdet. The very earliest representations of Sopdet show her as a cow with a star between her horns. She has a place on the sacred bark, the boat that ferries the dead to the duat. Later representations show her as a woman with a star above her head. The 5-pointed star is her symbol. The 5-pointed star is one of the most common decorative motifs in ancient Egyptian art, and you can see it very often on the ceilings of tombs and temples. The star is also a hieroglyph, and in its ideographic form, we call it Sabah. Sabah can mean hour or priestly or relate to astronomers and the goddess Sopdet. The crescent shapes over these spars represent a portion of time, of morning, of hours. When the star is used as a phonogram, it makes the sound duat, and the symbol of the duat, or the ancient Egyptian underworld, is represented by a star fully enclosed within a circle, and this represents the star being in the underworld. So illustrate Sopdet however you see her, and I'm going to read you in English an ancient Egyptian hymn to Sopdet. And as I'm reading this, I want you to close your eyes and draw or write down whatever images you conjure up in your imagination. Sopdet's name means she who is sharp or skilled woman. Her animals are the snakes and reptiles. Her metal is gold. Sopdet, the great, Lady of Elephantine, Lady of the bow with swift arrows, with an angry heart and anger-ridden eyes, who overthrows the enemy of her brother Wasir, magnificent of the sky, powerful one, princess, of the nome of the two Meret goddesses, who dispels the enemies and sets comrades, Sopdet.